You're stuck in hard decisions because you're asking the wrong questions. The Stoics had one simple rule that cuts through all the confusion and makes the right choice obvious. Hard decisions paralyze you. Should you stay in the relationship or leave? Take the job or keep looking? Speak up or stay quiet? Move forward or play it safe? You weigh options endlessly, ask everyone for advice, make lists of pros and cons, and still can't decide. Meanwhile, you're stuck in analysis paralysis while life passes by. The Stoics faced decisions that affected entire empires, life and death situations, choices with massive consequences. And they had a framework that made even the hardest decisions clear. Once you understand this rule, you'll never be stuck in indecision the same way again. So what's the Stoic rule for hard decisions? It's brutally simple. Ask yourself one question: which choice aligns with my principles and makes me the person I want to be? That's it. Not which choice is easier. Not which choice other people will approve of. Not which choice has the better outcome. Which choice reflects your values and builds your character. Marcus Aurelius used this framework constantly. Every decision went through this filter. Does this choice reflect justice, wisdom, courage, and discipline? If yes, that's the answer. If no, it doesn't matter how appealing the alternative is. He wrote that the only thing that matters is whether you're acting according to your nature as a rational, principled being. Everything else is just noise. Here's why most people struggle with decisions. They're trying to predict outcomes they can't control. Will this job work out? Will this relationship last? Will this investment pay off? You can't know these things. The future is uncertain. So you sit there trying to guarantee an outcome that's not guaranteed, and you're paralyzed. The Stoics knew this was backwards. You can't control outcomes, so don't base your decisions on them. Let me show you exactly how to apply this rule. First, get clear on your principles. What actually matters to you? Not what should matter or what others think should matter, but what genuinely guides your life. Is it integrity, freedom, growth, courage, service, family? Most people have never clearly defined their core values, so they have no framework for making decisions. They're just reacting to circumstances and trying to avoid discomfort. Epictetus taught that you need to know what you stand for before you can make good decisions. Without clear principles, every decision is just guessing about outcomes. But with clear principles, decisions become obvious. Does this align with what I value or not? That's all you need to know. If it aligns, you do it even if it's hard. If it doesn't align, you don't do it even if it's tempting. Sit down and write out your core values. 5 to 7 principles that define who you want to be. Not who you are right now, but who you're aiming to become. These become your decision-making filter. Every choice gets evaluated against these principles. Does this choice reflect courage or cowardice? Does it reflect integrity or compromise? Does it reflect growth or comfort-seeking? When you have this clarity, hard decisions get easier. Second part of the rule is focusing on character over outcomes. You're stuck on a decision because you're trying to choose the option with the better result, but you don't control results. You only control your choices and your character. The Stoic approach is to ask which choice builds the character you want to have, regardless of how it turns out. Marcus Aurelius made countless decisions that didn't work out how he hoped. Military campaigns that failed, policies that backfired, people he trusted who betrayed him, but he never regretted choices that aligned with his principles, even when outcomes were bad. He regretted the times he compromised his values, even when outcomes seemed fine. Because outcomes are temporary, but character is what you carry with you always. Apply this to your decisions. Should you have the difficult conversation or avoid it? Which choice builds the character trait of courage? Should you take the safe path or the challenging one? Which choice develops you into who you want to become? Should you tell the truth or tell a convenient lie? Which choice strengthens your integrity? When you frame decisions this way, the answer usually becomes clear. Third aspect is removing other people's opinions from the equation. You're stuck because you're considering what everyone else will think. Your parents, your friends, your partner, society. You're trying to make a choice that pleases everyone while also serving you. This is impossible. The Stoics knew that you can't live according to your principles while also living according to everyone else's expectations. Seneca wrote that you need to choose whether you want to please yourself or please the crowd. You can't do both. When you base decisions on what others will think, you give away your power. You let their values override yours. You end up living a life designed by committee, and it's never the life you actually want. The rule is simple. Make decisions based on your principles, not on managing other people's reactions. This doesn't mean you ignore all input. Advice can be valuable, but there's a difference between considering perspectives and letting others make your decision for you. Get input if it's useful, then filter it through your own values. What aligns with who I want to be? That's your answer, regardless of whether others agree. Fourth element is accepting uncertainty about outcomes. You want guaranteed results before you decide. You want to know for sure that this relationship will work, that this career move is right, that this investment will pay off. But certainty doesn't exist. The Stoics understood that you make decisions based on principles and then accept whatever results come, because results are outside your control. Epictetus taught that you control your choices, but not their consequences. So make choices based on what you can control, which is whether they align with your values. The rest is up to fate, circumstances, and factors beyond you. This removes the paralysis of trying to guarantee outcomes. You're not choosing based on results you can't predict. You're choosing based on principles you can control. Should you speak up about something wrong? You can't control how people will react, but you can control whether you live with integrity. Should you end a toxic relationship? You can't control whether you'll find someone better, but you can control whether you respect yourself enough to leave what harms you. Should you pursue a difficult goal? You can't control whether you'll succeed, but you can control whether you live courageously. Choose based on what you control. Fifth part of the rule is considering the long-term view. You're stuck because you're weighing short-term comfort against long-term fulfillment. The easy choice now versus the right choice for who you want to become. The Stoics always took the long view. Marcus Aurelius would ask himself how this decision would look from the perspective of his deathbed. Would he be proud of this choice when reviewing his life? This is a powerful filter. When you're stuck between options, imagine you're 80 years old looking back. Which choice would you be proud you made? Which choice would you regret? Usually, the choice that requires more courage, more integrity, more growth is the one you'll be proud of later. The choice that's more comfortable, more convenient, more safe is the one you'll regret not having the strength to move beyond. Apply this perspective to your current decision. 10 years from now, which choice will you be glad you made? Which choice builds the life and character you want to have? That's your answer, even if it's harder right now. Sixth element is acting despite fear. You're stuck because one option scares you and you're interpreting fear as a sign you shouldn't choose it. But the Stoics knew that fear often points to the choice that will help you grow. The option that's comfortable rarely requires courage. The option that terrifies you might be exactly what you need to become stronger. Seneca wrote that we suffer more in imagination than in reality. You're afraid of the hard choice because you're imagining worst-case scenarios. But most of what you fear won't happen, and even if it does, you'll handle it. The Stoic rule is to recognize fear and then ask if the choice aligns with your principles anyway. If it does, you move forward despite the fear. Should you leave the stable job for the uncertain opportunity that aligns with your values? You're afraid. But does staying reflect who you want to be, or just fear of discomfort? Should you end the relationship that's safe but unfulfilling? You're afraid of being alone, but does staying reflect self-respect or just fear of change? Fear is information, not instruction. Note it, then decide based on principles. Here's what the Stoics really understood about hard decisions. They're only hard when you're trying to control things you can't control. Outcomes, other people's reactions, future circumstances. When you let go of controlling those things and focus only on what you can control, which is choosing according to your principles, decisions become simple. Not easy, but simple. Marcus Aurelius faced decisions about war, governance, justice, and personal matters that had enormous consequences. But he didn't agonize endlessly over them. He had his principles. He evaluated choices against those principles. He chose what aligned and accepted whatever results followed. This clarity came from knowing what mattered, which was his character and integrity, not the outcomes he couldn't guarantee. You have the same capacity for clarity. Define your principles. Evaluate choices against them. Choose what aligns with who you want to be. Accept uncertainty about results. Take the long view. Act despite fear. When you use this framework, hard decisions stop being paralyzing. You know what matters. You know what you stand for. You choose accordingly. Stop trying to make perfect decisions. Stop trying to guarantee outcomes. Stop trying to please everyone. Start making principled decisions. Decisions based on who you want to be, not on what you want to happen. The Stoics promise you this: choose according to your values, and you'll never truly regret the choice, regardless of results. Start using this rule today. Pick the decision you're stuck on. Define what principles apply. Which choice reflects those principles? Which choice makes you the person you want to become? That's your answer. It might be the harder choice, it might be the scarier choice, but it's the right choice for someone living according to their values rather than just trying to avoid discomfort. The Stoics made countless hard decisions. They chose principle over popularity. They chose integrity over ease. They chose growth over comfort. Not because they knew how things would turn out, but because they knew who they wanted to be. And that's ultimately what every decision comes down to. Are you choosing based on who you want to become, or based on what you're afraid might happen?